Hi, my name is Jackie. I am so honored and have the privilege of being the Director of Partnerships and Engagement at the wonderful global Imerman Angels one-on-one cancer support. Imerman has been around now, it'll be our 19th birthday in August. And I have actually been involved with the organization for it's going to be 13 years now. So I came to Immerman because of my own personal experience. Similar to you, Mariana, is that I have had many people in my family diagnosed with cancer. I've lost my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, my aunt, my mom, all to cancer. My sister is currently going through stage 4 breast cancer. I had skin cancer. And now we know that with this, history of cancer, that it is genetic. And so more family members are currently carriers of Lynch syndrome. So very personal, you can say. And how Imerman Angels comes into my life is that we are this one-on-one, peer-to-peer organization that basically allows people to share their lived experience on a one-on-one basis. Whether you're a cancer fighter, a survivor, a previvor, a caregiver, you get to talk to someone who's already been there. And it's really about connecting the right people together. We believe that you're more than just your cancer diagnosis. We know that it's about more things than that. And so being able to connect people on multiple levels is always our goal. And we can create this magic. And we've been doing it now for, like I said, 19 years. We have over 146 cancer types. We have over 16,000 mentor angels. So those are the volunteers that are willing to give back. And we're in 123 countries. So that's just some of our stats. We've matched over 43,000 support seekers, which essentially is 86,000 people. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about Imerman. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Cheryl, can you introduce yourself too?
Hello, everyone. Jackie, what an amazing story. It touches my heart. So happy to be here with you. I love being part of the After Cancer. I am a 13-year breast cancer survivor who experienced integrative care and peer support in such a powerful way when I was diagnosed that it has completely changed my last 13 years and the way that I show up every single day. And it's really important for me to kind of provide that kind of care for our survivors who come through our virtual survivorship program. During COVID and for the last 11 years, I was providing experiential retreats and activities for survivors, facilitating support groups and shared spaces. And during COVID, we had to go virtual, of course, as most of us did. And I did it a little kicking and screaming, saying we can't bring this intimate space into this flat screen. And I'm here to tell you that you can. And it was so exciting to develop interactive programs and ways to connect with people. And, I hardly notice a screen. People just connect in such a powerful way. And it's really important for me to bring that energy to the screen and to our support groups. I work with the leadership team to keep that very impactful method of connecting through Head of Survivorship Care. And I also facilitate our support groups for GYN circles. We call our support group circles for breast cancer, for blended circles for others. So I get to work directly with the survivors.
Thank you, Cheryl. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can just look at each other's faces. It's always nicer that way. I wrote on the chat, if anyone has any specific question, feel free just to write it on the chat and we'll review it at the end. We'll leave some time for a Q&A. So the first question I would like to ask you is why is peer-to-peer support such a powerful tool in survivorship? I would love to hear from your experiences on how you provide this peer-to-peer support, but also Why do you think it's so important? Jackie, over to you.
Thank you. Um, well, I can tell you my personal experience. So I learned about Imerman Angels at, of course, where else would you learn about a cancer support organization, but at the dog park. So I was out walking my dog and I met a woman and our dogs met. So while they were meeting, we were meeting, and it just started, a genuine conversation of getting to know each other. And she started asking me about what I was looking for in a job, because at that time I was looking for a job. And she then shared with me an organization that she was volunteering with that meant a lot to her because of her experience. And so she says, Imerman Angels, one-on-one cancer support. So I'm, of course, intrigued. I've already lost so many family members, right? So now I ask more, I'm like, please tell me more. And she's telling me almost my story. I was listening to her in almost like a shock because I couldn't believe how close her story was to me. And I was like, wow, I never felt so validated, so heard, so seen, so much like this. There was this wall that basically crumbled to the ground that I didn't know existed. And so, her sharing her story, particularly the loss of her mom to lung cancer, that meant so much to me. And so I went home and searched up mermaid angels because that's what I thought she said, because what's an Immerman? And found that that was not on the internet. It was, but not what I wanted. And so was terrified that I would not be able to engage more with this organization. So I was hoping, let me please run into her. And so sure enough, I did, thankfully. And then she corrected the mermaid to Immerman. Uh, and have been connected ever since. But I told her in that moment, I said, I don't know what's happening right now, but what I do know is that I want everyone that's gone through this awful disease to have someone like you, someone that sees them in a way that is just unlike any other connection you can make. Because if you haven't been there, you're not going to get it. And so that is what has fueled me every single day to make sure that people are not going through this alone, to make sure that people really do have someone that gets what they're going through because they have gone through it. And I can tell you the power of it is that, sure, it sounds like it's going to be the one person looking for support that gains this relationship, this connection, this feeling of being seen. But in reality, it's both people, because the mentor also gains this trauma mastery over their experience that is so unexpected. And it heals parts of you that you didn't know were broken. It allows you to also feel almost like a superhero in a way, because you then are able to process what you were not historically able to process because you didn't have time, right? When you're going through this stuff, you don't have time to think about every single thing. You just have to move forward and get to the next day. And so going through it as a mentor and walking somebody through that experience, you're able to see, heal, and realize what has actually transpired in your life and how these experiences could actually help someone else. So that is my personal experience, but that is my why, and that is what happens in peer-to-peer.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal story on how you found Imerman Angels and peer-to-peer support. I can hear your emotions when you're speaking, and it resonates a lot with me as a caregiver too. Whenever I hear and I can speak with another caregiver. Cheryl, tell us about your journey in peer-to-peer support and how why do you think it's important, and how do you provide it?
Absolutely. Yeah, so much of that resonated with me as well. And I think term peer to peer, when I'm facilitating these group sessions at the After Cancer, I really put my space in that peer space. I mean, a lot of times, I think there could be a tendency to show up as kind of the guru, the person who has the answers. We're going to try to fix it, but truly, my process when I get in front of our survivors is to first practice gratitude that I'm able to be with survivors in this moment at this very vulnerable time. And, connect person to person. I do hear all the time, I have support. My husband's great. My sister, is great and she wants to help me, but she doesn't understand. And so having that power of someone to hear you and to be able to complete your thought, really understand, provide the support, that validation, as you mentioned, Jackie, of what you're going through is real and that somebody else really gets it. It kind of provides a feeling of being home and just having a space to share that's really understood. And it's powerful.
Thank you. Um, I would love to hear a story about a mentor mentee. Um, Jackie, from your organization, like, do you have any maybe like experience that you could share of how impactful this was for both the mentor and the mentee?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, thankfully I have a bazillion, right? So it's almost like, where do I start? Um, I would say one story that sticks out is we had a gentleman who sought support uh, as he was going through testicular cancer. And he was married and he went through his testicular cancer, treatments. And then afterwards, he actually was like, oh, I'm going to become a mentor. Thank you so much for matching me. He's like, so when I'm ready, I'll come back. So he became a mentor and he was still kind of like on the tail end of his treatment, but then so he went back to the doctor and he and his wife and his doctor said, well, while you're Ned right now, no evidence of disease, we want you to hold off on the next steps of family planning because that was where they were in their life. They wanted to start having a family and build on that. So the doctor says, well, you should probably hold off a while. And he and his wife went home, and she basically said, I'm not waiting. I'm leaving. So while she supported him through the treatment, she did not support him any further after that. She was like, I'm done. I gotta go. My time clock is, ticking. I don't have time for this anymore. And he was devastated. He just was shocked. Not something that he expected from her. And so he contacted us, of course, so sad and just like lost. And he said, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be able to figure out someone for me, but, can you get me someone that's also lost their spouse through cancer? And I so wish that I could say that it is a unique experience. Unfortunately, it's not. So I reached out to another mentor who also had testicular cancer, who lost his wife during that treatment. And it took a little bit longer for him to respond. And I was like, this is not like this guy. What's going on? He gets back to me. He's like, Jackie, so sorry that it was delayed. I was like, oh, yeah, we get it. Things happen. You're going through, stuff and living your life. Great. He said, well, actually, I'm coming back from my second honeymoon. He got remarried. And so not only was he able to provide that support on testicular cancer, not only was he able to provide the support of having his wife leave him, but also give the hope that our mentee, our person looking for support, would then have a potential to get married to someone else, their true love, someone that was going to be there through thick and thin. And so that is one of those stories that I will never forget because it has put such, you mentioned gratitude in his world. And I will say that was many years ago, and he still is supporting us. Still, he's still a mentor. He's still, comes to our events and everything. So that's one that really sticks out. Another one that is really good to point out is a woman who also was a support seeker. She came to us looking for support. She's actually a nurse, so she's in oncology every day. So you get every day you have oncology, and now you got to face your own diagnosis. Awful. So anyhow, she goes through breast cancer. She gets matched. Again, it's very similar family planning situation. She had estrogen positive breast cancer. So she came to us and asked if she could get matched to someone else that could help fill in the blanks of what family planning could look like. So what we ended up matching her on was we gave her one mentor, estrogen positive IVF successful birth. We gave her another mentor that actually had a surrogate and gave them a child that way. We had a third mentor that adopted, and a fourth mentor that just was not able to have children in any way. So it was this full circle support that this woman had, and I should have thought about this, but I'm super happy she just had her surrogate baby, like just came through, and she joined our board, and she's just like so thrilled about all this full circle support that she received. And so those are really two stories that stick out with me.
Thank you for sharing those two stories. And I love how in those two stories were when you were trying to match the peers, like the mentors and the mentees, you were looking at cancer type, but also like what's happening in their life. And I think that's something that we've been doing at the After Cancer to like understanding that sometimes is beyond the cancer diagnosis is like, are you young, married, looking to have kids? Like, at what stage of your life are you? Because sometimes you just need to talk with someone who's going through the same. Cheryl, do you want to share a little bit more information about how we do this, but on a group setting, how our circles work, what type of interactions we see there in a few stories?
Yes, absolutely. So our circles, as I mentioned, are by cancer type typically, but we are going to be offering, other, circle opportunities for those that are other shared experiences. Our circles, are, it is a community. They really have become a family of support, and it's almost like I get to show up, open the space and facilitate conversation and stand back and watch the magic happen. Um, Example, so just this week I had a circle, and we select um, one circle that folks from outside the organization, they may want to know what it's more about, can come in. And so we had a guest at this circle, and she was introduced to the group of women that were on the call, and it was almost like they adopted her. I mean, it was like they wrapped their hands around her and, welcomed her. And so it was an opportunity to really share what circles are, what support is, and then just stand out of the way and watch it unfold. One of the members was saying, "Oh my goodness, and you're going to love Lauren because she can connect you to and support you in this, and and you're going to love Jeanette. I can't wait until you meet Jeanette." And so it was just like the support bubbled up, and this guest left so encouraged and so felt so welcome and welcomed to the group of support and community. And she was able to share that support groups don't always, leave her feeling upbeat. Sometimes they're heavy. Sometimes they're, just a combination of stories that are overwhelming for her to hear. And it's really important in these circles that all of the folks get to come and really share where they are authentically. We want to hear how you're doing and really hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and then together we build out of that. Together we find, what are the methods? What are the tools? It's not about fixing it, but let's just, offer a couple of things so that you're not stuck in some of these emotions. And some of the stories that are shared are so very heavy, yet we leave the session almost every single time with, I feel so uplifted. I feel so full of hope. I feel the love in the room. So it's a pretty special environment that creates in a group of people that, with these shared experiences.
Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear your perspective as a survivor who steps into this mentor role. Like, how do you manage being a mentor and make sure you're healthy and take care of your mental health when there's, as you said, like heavy stories that you hear? How do you make sure it's not too overwhelming for yourself? Like, what type of structure did you have to build around you to be able to step into this mentor role?
I don't know there's a structure around me, but I will say that sometimes when we are feeling emotional, and I think it's really important for those of us who are serving cancer survivors or anyone with a terminal illness or any sort of, tragic situation to have your own self-care, have your routine. I will often build in, walks during the day. I like to say, I need to go hug a tree, which means I need to step out of the emotion I'm feeling, get into a space that gives me really joy and hope, and spend time there. There is loss and there is grief in this world. We do suffer loss. And at one point, when I first started in this work, I was like, how can I do this? How can I be in a group of people that somebody may die? And what do I do with that anticipatory grief that I'm feeling? Or how can I, break down those barriers to not want to get to know somebody if I feel I'm going to lose them? And someone very wise doing this work said, honestly, I don't think about it. I think, how lucky am I to be in front of this amazing person and I get to experience getting to know this person. And then I don't think about it. When grief does happen, there's a process that I do, and I spend time in that grief. I don't skirt over it. I mean, I'll often light a candle. I'll often sit and reflect and bring in memories and stories. And so it really is important to keep your own mental health really solid because it can be very hard work. And we facilitate those hard conversations.
Thank you. Jackie, any comments on how within like Imerman Angels you provide support and tools for the mentors?
I would say yes. Yes to all that Cheryl just said. Yes. Um, and, just recognizing your role, right? Recognizing while you're giving empathy, you also need to not allow the emotions to overtake you, right? So having those moments of being able to separate their story from yours, while our whole role is to make sure that they are supportive and they, show that they have been there. It's also, very important to divide out the stories in that way for the mentors. So we do tell, mentors that, again, you're not fixing, right? We are here to fill that empathy gap that people cannot get any other way. And, set up the expectations, allow them to also take breaks. If they've had a call with a mentee that's very challenging, like tell them to go outside. And so we've given them their self care list, I guess, and also allowing them to talk to someone too. So we're always open for receiving the calls from our mentors to discuss what happened. Additionally, and personally, like a therapist too, having a safe space to, while a mentor is good to talk about the experience, the mentor is not a therapist, right? And so those two can, be adjuvant. In addition to having a circle or support group as well, like why not have all these different outlets for people to share and be able to, feel comfortable with where they are and where they've been and just grow out of that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Cheryl, do you want to comment on that?
Yes to all, and we talk very often at the After Cancer is, because we do this work and it can be heavy, that it is of utmost, to support each other, and be there for each other and build in those activities. And, Mariana has done a beautiful job of blending the team and giving, opportunities of relationship. And we spend time, again, working through some of these things. We did have a session once that was particularly, heavy is not the right word, just wow. And I don't have a lot of words around it. However, as we closed the call, and there were three facilitators on the group. And we stood together in our spaces and did a breathing activity and shared our thoughts together and kind of closed with a little bit of closure to that grief and putting it where it needed to be. And on the other end of that, it's not unlikely sometimes for me to pick up the phone or to reach out to somebody within a group who may not have felt like they had closure or needed a little bit more, to make sure to take that extra step to make sure that we're not leaving open wounds, or that we do connect someone with a therapist or the next step to work through some of these things. Because when you are showing up authentically, and with stories, it can be raw. Yeah, so that we have kind of a mechanism for getting the support to folks that need it.
Yeah. And I think we've also experienced it several times within the team as providers and practitioners. It happened last week. We lost one of our patients who was not well for a few months, and like her daughter would keep on message me like updates about what's going on with her health. And then we had the news, she passed away. And we had to hold time, specifically me, because she was a patient that was very dear to me at the beginning of the after cancer. Like she helped us a lot to get us where we are. And I just had to take time, go for a walk, like cry, grieve, to then be able to be here and be in a meeting and be myself again. So I think that's something that we definitely try to be very mindful of, like what's the emotional um, kind of like battery that we have within our team members who are patient facing, and like when do we need a moment, and how to sometimes like tell them to, you should take a moment. I can see you're not at 100% yet. It's okay to take a moment now before you go out of battery, or emotional battery, let's call it that, like that. It's hard, but it's definitely needed because I mean there's so much burnout in the work that we do. um
I think just to add too, because you guys had a similar thing. We experienced a challenging situation this morning, so it's ironic that we're talking about this. And so, we work mostly remote, but we do have one day that we go in the office, and today we're remote. But the point is that we have a chat that our whole team, internal team, can interact with each other and support each other. And so, today, one of our things was, while somebody was going through a hard time, they offered the support. And then afterwards, one of my teammates actually put a YouTube video of Friends. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Pivot episode, but it is one of the best. And it allowed all of us to take literally 2 minutes and just laugh together. We were all laughing. And sometimes you need that too, right? So it's like, share, in that feeling while you're having it, but then also like remember there are good things too. And so it has to be that balance, right? So that's where we were supporting each other. So the supporting each other is just, that's a key. But then, also how can we lighten it up a little bit too? So
I love that idea. We'll do that next time. We also have a messaging board where
Pivot one, it's hilarious. So Friends, Pivot, look it up. It's hilarious.
we'll have a look at it. Maybe just to close this discussion, I would love to hear, Jackie, on your side, like what advice would you give someone, a cancer patient who feels isolated, who needs support and they don't know where to go or what to do?
Yeah, I think, social workers are amazing people on this planet. And I feel like they should, talk to their social worker. That's their whole care team is there because notice the first word of that is care, right? That is what they are looking for from their patients and the caregivers. Go to your social worker. If you cannot access them, you know, please go to navigators. If you cannot access them, to ask your oncologist, ask your people that you do see, who can I talk to because I'm feeling alone? If you're on this call and you are a social worker, or you're on this call and you know people are going through this alone, have them reach out to Imerman Angels. Our biggest issue is that not enough people know about us. That's always been the case, because again, what's an Imerman, right? So, but one-on-one cancer support can prevent that isolation, can help with it, make it a little bit easier, give that empathy that's so important. So, we live in a time where Google is big. We don't want to Google things, but you can also, if you don't get the link, Google Imerman Angels or peer-to-peer or one-on-one, and you will find us there. So there's other support groups too, like you all, and the services you provide. So I don't want to make it all about me, but and Imerman, but I do. So,
I've been sharing your the link to our website here on the chat, and I'll definitely
thank
share
you.
information on a follow-up email. Yeah, I think like peer-to-peer, that one-to-one relationship is really needed. And you do a wonderful work. We have a therapist, social worker that works with us, and she's always sharing that with the patients that she sees, and she writes it on the blog. So definitely a wonderful resource for all of your patients. I know there's a few social workers in this call, there's a few nurses. Make sure you save this link somewhere so you can share it with your community and your patients. Cheryl, on your side, when you see someone who feels isolated, they've been through cancer, what's the advice that you would give them on how to find support?
One of the first things that I tell folks, and it was something that was shared with me as a survivor, is that, have your list, your short list of people who make you feel like sunshine, and call that person, reach out to that person. When you find a support group and you're on the other side of it and you've gone through it, how does it make you feel? Are you feeling heavier? Are you feeling, supported and hopeful? And so I know I hear all the time that I've tried so many support groups and I just can't find the right one because I just don't want to hear, folks rehashing the same things, for all these years. And then I just feel like I have no hope. So find the places that give you hope and I mean, the after cancer is wonderful for that. And we often hear, wow, I feel like I'm home. And I found a group that allows me to be where I am, but at the end of the day, I always leave so loved and uplifted.
Thank you. I loved hearing from your different experiences and different takes on how peer-to-peer can be a really important and supportive tool for cancer patients. I'd love to open the floor now for questions. Um, so I'm going to give everyone a few minutes. You can write your questions on the chat. If you want, you can just raise your hand and unmute yourselves and ask the question directly to the group. Don't be shy. We may have a shy group. um, but again, a few more seconds if anyone has a question about how to reach to these organizations. Oh, Anna, go ahead.
Hi, I actually had a question that Anne Marie also wrote down in the chat. So I'm stealing your thunder, Anne Marie, by the way. Um, because something when you were talking about how to kind of deal as a mentor with the energy that your mentee brings into that conversation. How does that work in a group situation? Because I would imagine that people are in different stages of of their cancer survivorship, of their post-treatment, whatever that may be. And I think this is the point that Anna Marie was making is like, are any of these folks in that group going through actual treatment? Because then they're definitely going to be through a different sort of stage than anybody else. And how do you manage that kind of yeah, that energy amongst the group when people are going through a very different experience and therefore can be subject to all sorts of triggers, I would imagine.
Yeah,
For
Cheryl, yeah.
Yeah, for us, this is one of the reasons that the need for groups that are stage 4 groups, stage 1 groups, and active treatment groups, young mother groups, shared experiences. And we recognize that there can be a need. There can be some folks that are triggered when they hear other things. Now, I will say that with the circles, it is very seldom that we actually just kind of share the beginnings, the middle, the end of the cancer story. So it's not always very, in depth of that deep story of what folks are going through. We offer that space, but then we're able to, my focus and the focus of finding the tools to live fully in the moment, regardless of what you're going through, is always my goal of, okay, so you've shared a really hard situation. How did you, move through that? Acknowledge what folks are doing to take a really active role in their own treatment. And for one, they're showing up to a group, to a support that they feel, really strong support through. And I mean, that is just acknowledging what folks are doing. Again, managing some of that. Sometimes it is really heavy, and recognizing when somebody needs a little more than what a simple group support, and then finding that next step and knowing, transparency, talking, not hiding it, just sharing it openly. And what I find more times than not is that the entire group wraps around that person instead of feeling, their own pain through that. And that's where that group magic is what I'm talking about, that it's pretty spectacular most times.
Yeah. And we had a recent example of this where a very active patient in one of our groups had a recurrence and shared it in the group chat. Um, and then the way that we saw the other peers wrap around her, answer her questions, like give support was truly amazing and very touching. Jackie, do you want to maybe like share does Imerman Angels, we have here a question from Anne-Marie, like are any of these individuals for during treatment? How do you maybe match the mentor and the mentee based on what stage of their journey they are?
For us, it's very specific. So I really like that y'all are starting to divide up your groups, depending on topics. So that is how it is for us. We always look at the stages that a person is at. Now, mentor technically means more an advanced situation, like further out. So typically what will happen is the mentor has already undergone most of the treatments, but it may not always be the case. And so we always meet our support seekers, our mentors, where they're at. So, sometimes people want to talk to someone who is literally going through it at the time. Right. So that same treatment. So we will connect them. Or sometimes, and this has happened actually a lot more than most people think, is like, I want to talk to somebody who's 20 years out. Because if they could make it with what was happening and being used back then, that gives me hope, because we know that right now our, treatments are more advanced and better and more targeted, right? So we meet people where they are and we match based off of what they're asking for on that one-on-one level.
Thank you. There is a question here on the chats from Sharmika. Any tips on where to begin with implementing peer-to-peer support within a cancer center? Considerations for HIPAA. Jackie, do you have any experience?
Sharmika, I want to meet you. That's my favorite question. So I will say yes. Email me, or I'll actually put in our link that you can contact. Please, if you would like, don't recreate the wheel. We already have over 16,000 mentor angels that we can help. We've already started this with the partnerships. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, what I have found is historically being with the organization, it was all about all ships rising and helping all the organizations build their own peer-to-peer. And then what I realized was we screwed up. While we were being kind by doing that, we created a confusion for people looking for mentors because then they're like, do I go to this organization or do I go to this organization or do I go to the hospital or do I go to this, my church, whatever. And they didn't know where to go to for a mentor. And so their perfect mentor could live in a little niche in the wall and never actually get access to this mentee looking for support. So please, I look forward to hearing from you. I would love to work together. And anyone else on the call, please know that this is an opportunity for your healthcare or your cancer partner organization. We're here, and that's what we're looking for, is to support more people. So thank you for that question.
Wonderful. And again, we'll share your information, both the link and then your email to the attendees. Anne Marie, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I'm driving. So I have a question. I am doing research specifically in supporting health promotion early on in survivorship, both for many common symptoms in young adults. Do you ever, or would you ever consider a certain niche, like people who are trying to support one another towards health as they just had, this experience that perhaps disrupted things?
There was a little bit of interference on your question, but let me try to rephrase it and see if I got it. So you're doing research in health promotion in early stages of post-treatment with young adults. And I believe your question was if any of these partners would be interested in that specific niche.
Well, I think my question is one of the things in a current grant that I'm proposing is to look at the role of social support to support one another. And because when I talk to young adult cancer survivors, they're not sure where to go, and so they're trying to find someone who will either motivate them or emotionally support them or show them where information is, specifically to meet the guideline of being active because of the side effects of not being active in these people who have 50 years of survivorship ahead of them. So I wonder if this type of group, would there ever be a need, instead of by diagnosis per se, of by current need? Does that make sense? What is their current need? And so if the current need is they're looking for, people to support them as they try to regain some of their health behaviors.
Yeah. I understand your question. And I think from what Jackie has said, you definitely look for the mentors based on need. I don't know if you want to talk about it specifically. And then I'm sure Cheryl can talk about health promotion and the work that we do at the After Cancer.
Yeah, I think I understand the question. So, yes, we meet people where they're at. So based off of what they're looking for. So like prior examples, somebody that is looking for family planning, somebody maybe that's gone through a divorce, someone that this is a big one, especially in that age range. Somebody that lived on their own and then got diagnosed, and now they have to live home with their parents, moving back with their parents. That's a huge transition. You got to go through the diagnosis and now lose basically your independence, right? So that's something that we can match on. Someone that is fearing recurrence, someone that is going through a particular treatment. So I think if I'm understanding that question, yes is the answer. And these are some of the details, but too, I think Cheryl's saying yes, that's kind of where they're going. I don't want to speak for you, but.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, we've been involved pretty heavily with the AYA group and recognize some of the very specific problems that they have that some other age groups and even cancer types may not recognize or may not be going through the same thing. So we are doing some very specific support with AYA and even part of a research program there. But, with all of our support groups, as I recognize that they're looking for something very specific, then I recommend what we've built is a virtual virtual survivorship platform with programming every day, whether it's physical exercise, and these are all within those integrative modality: physical exercise, sleep, stress reduction, nutrition, all of those things in our lifestyle, that can make a difference through survivorship. And so when we hear something very specific that somebody's looking for or seeking, we can then point them to what class, what practitioner, where can you get that support and where can you get that mentorship? And it may not be a peer-to-peer, but it's definitely programmatic within the After Cancer where we can get you support for specific issues you're looking for.
Thank you. Any last questions? I saw here that Colleen was asking if anyone today offers group peer-to-peer support. So we definitely do at the After Cancer. I'm sure that some of you here in this call also do it at your own cancer centers. Feel free to share your stories on the chats, or maybe unmute and share, like, how do you run your support group for a specific cancer type on your cancer center? We would love to hear your stories. And we'll keep...
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Livia Vargas. I'm from Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center here in Pomona. I'm the nurse navigator for our breast cancer population. And we are very much in the planning phase for a speaker, a topic, a presentation surrounding sexuality, intimacy, and cancer, or after cancer. And does anyone have any insight on a sex therapist or anything to that nature? This is something that I think does not always get discussed with patients, unfortunately. And it's so important. And a lot of times they're private about it. We're tossing around the ideas of keeping it separate, for maybe just not really say only females, but gear it towards females. But of course, a male can come, what have you. And then also the opposite, should we do it for our male population? So any insight, any information, any strategies?
We've definitely done things like that on the After Cancer. Jackie, have you had anything like that with Imerman Angels, like specifically questions about sexual health?
1,000,000,000%, unfortunately and fortunately, right? So we've actually partnered with an organization. So thank you for thinking of this, because I am with you that it is not discussed enough. And, obviously, too, it's such a hard topic to bring up, right? People feel that they can't talk about it, right? So we do have mentors that discuss this all the time, that are open to having those discussions, but also we've partnered with an organization that's actually called Empowering Intimacy. And so I'll put that in the chat too. You can look into them and see, Jen is the founder over there. She's phenomenal. She's an excellent speaker. And, look and see at the resources too that they have. So that would be what I would start with.
Background?
Sorry?
With Janet, what's her background?
It's Jennifer.
What's her background?
Meaning, like, is she a therapist or what background? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she is. Is she is she a social worker or a sex therapist or anywhere in that arena?
I don't 100% remember. I'm going to be completely frank. We've been partnered for 18,000 years, so I don't exactly remember, but her information, I'm sure, is on the website, and, feel free to check her out.
And of your 18 million thousand times where you address this topic, has it been like virtual, in person? Like what has a few of yours look like?
Okay, so me personally, no, I've not. Our mentors and mentees. So people will come to us because it's the one-on-one requests. So not like a presentation on it for me, but that these questions are being asked on a one-on-one level. And so they come to us quite frequently because they know it can be private, right? And so that's how we have actually supported that conversation. And again, have sent people over to this organization, the Empowering Intimacy, and then they take it from there too.
Cheryl, want to share how we've done it on a group setting? Like sexual health is definitely a question that comes every week. We've done groups where we had sex therapists, where we had like OBGYN nurses. So we try to tackle it from the physical symptoms, but also like the more emotional aspect of it. Do you want to share a little bit of information of how we've done it, and then we can share resources with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have what we call chat with an expert on our platform, and we'll bring in folks on a, specific topic and their expertise. And sexual health has been really a hot topic, and specifically with breast cancer survivors, but really with all survivors. Not only the physical limitations after breast cancer treatment, but also emotional after any cancer diagnosis. And so we have very candid talks, and it's facilitated in a very safe space. A lot of times we will have a small presentation about sexual health, and then a Q&A where then we'll go deeper into specific questions that our survivors will have. And something that's been really powerful for us is then we've created a chat within this group so that they can then continue to connect on some of these issues. So we find that it continues to be a topic of interest, and so there's a special facilitation that takes place to have a comfort with some of these very candid discussions about very intimate situations with that. So yep, we definitely have gone in that direction.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and who so you've had like online platforms where you had a speaker. Where did you go to for your speakers? Were they volunteering
So
or
So Mariana will share some contact information with you, but for us, for the After Cancer, we are a virtual survivorship platform, and we bring in experts on topics such as sexual health and other, topics that arise. So we do offer sexual health support virtually for our survivors through the After Cancer.
And I'll make sure I'll share information with you afterwards about how these work. We had a question in the chat. Jackie, do you offer mentorship for metastatic breast cancer patients?
Yes, I just literally just answered. So good timing on that. Yes, I wasn't sure if we'd get to it. Thank you for asking. Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. I feel we could stay here another 30 minutes going through and just talking about our experiences. I just wanted to close and share information about our next Expert Insight session. This is going to be in August with Dr. Kelly Sugar. She's a psychologist with a PhD, and she's going to be talking about mindfulness and cancer survivorship and sharing practical tools for patient stress relief. You can sign up here on this QR code. Otherwise, I'll share the link too on the chat and by email. And there's just to wrap it up. So this is Imerman Angels contact information. There is an email, phone number, QR code. Take a screenshot of this. We'll also share this by email. And then if you want to hear more about the After Cancer, I would love to set up a meeting with you. You can go on our website, which is www.theaftercancer.com, or feel free to send me an email, mariana@theaftercancer.com. Thank you, everyone. It was so lovely to meet you all and hear your stories. And thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us.